Call to order Muscogee Creek National Council Agenda, Quarterly Session, July 27th, 2019. The time is now 10 a.m. I'd like to ask Brother Ed Bear to please come forward and give the invocation.
In the book of Psalms, chapter 118, verse 24, it says, "Let us rejoice in this day that the Lord has given to us." And so today is a day of opportunity. Today is a day of life that our Savior, our Creator, has given to us.
Roll call, second speaker, David Hill.
Speaker Lucian Tiger.
Present.
Representative Dale Beaver. Present. Representative Pete Beaver. Present. Representative Wyatt.
16 present, 0 absent, constitutes a quorum. All business conducted to be official. At this time, we have a few presentations. I'd like to ask Sandra Golden with Muscogee Creek Nation Spirit of Oklahoma 2019 football camp. Would you please come forward? As well as Mr. Lott.
Good morning, and thank you all for letting us have a little bit of time on your agenda. This is Coach Lott, and all the rest of the coaches didn't get to come because they're still busy, I guess. But I wanted to share a little bit about our camp. Actually, it was 5 camps this year. Five camps this year. Can you still hear me? Okay. So we did Coweta, Muscogee, Eufaula, Okmulgee, and Bristow. We didn't quite get the number that we wanted because of the rain. We had kids that were playing baseball, so they were making Little League missed games. They were making up games. So at Coweta, we had 91 kids, and that was our first one. We didn't expect to have that many, but it was awesome. 37.4% of our participants were Creek, and we had 61% that were Native. We know that a lot of our kids they might be Cherokee or Choctaw and Creek, but they were enrolled in a different tribe, so that's why I gave that number. Muscogee, we had 55. I think there were like 3 makeup games for the Little League that day, so that was on the Saturday. Eufaula, we had 66. I think a lot of the kids went to Falls Creek, and there were makeup games. Okmulgee, we had 60 kids. I forgot to tell you the percentage, but 75% at Okmulgee were natives. Bristow, we had 58. That was our last camp. 69% were native. We ended up with 330 participants, and that was 66% of what we had planned for. So we gave out a lot of shirts to volunteers. We had the communities that did the food and the schools that hosted, and they all are very committed to working with our children. We know that physical activity is very important for our kids. We know that right now technology is kind of taken over, so we have to work a little bit harder to get our kids out, but the ones that came were just awesome, and we brought a few of them here today. Did you want to say anything before we?
Real quickly, again, I'd like to thank you all because you set an example for many communities. I've been getting quite a few calls because they heard of what we've done in our camp, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to touch the youth, trying to help turn some of them around if they have problems and give them some things to do. Like Sandy was saying, because of the games that they play and they're indoors quite a bit, physical activity is very important, and it's nothing like, I know when I was growing up, we didn't want to be inside. I mean, that was punishment. That's basically what my mother would say. If this certain thing doesn't get done, you don't get to go outside. And that's where we were all day during the summer. We played football in the morning, then when it got hot around about 1, 2 o'clock, 3, we'd get on the shade tree. And then we'd come back later that evening and play until dark. It's not like that anymore. You know, physical activity is just not where it used to be. These kids are, it's too hot, it's too cold, they just don't want to go outside and get active. And we have to put them in a position to be active. We're looking forward to next year. And like I said, there's other schools in this area that want to participate. We're looking forward to that. And also, we have some discussions about maybe extending this into some basketball camp, because for me, it really bothers me that we're not getting the young ladies participating. So we have to add something to get them involved also. When they hear football, I don't blame them. I pretty much wouldn't want my young lady playing football either, but if we can come up with some things, I have a program that works on quickness, speed, agility, balance, just keep them moving and doing things. And we're discussing things about adding some more so that we can involve as many of the youth as possible. Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity and look forward to working with you again. Thank you all.
So we have some of our participants that are from the different schools. And speaking about young ladies, we had a young lady. As I call your name, if you can come up here, we'll do a we'd like to give you a little presentation from Coach Lott. Her name is Eden Big Pond. Eden, would you come up? Eden is 10 years old, and she was out there all day. Her brothers, I don't want to say they quit, but they just... So meet Eden Big Pond. Is one of them.
Let me tell you, she was awesome, and she was stride for stride with every young man out there. So she was a very special young lady.
Okay, Justin Squire. Justin, yeah. We also did a video, and because I'm not very techno-savvy, I apologize that we didn't have it, but some of you saw it, and Coach Lott's son is the one that put it together, and it's from all 5 of the different camps. Justin Squire. He just did everything. He did everything, and he did so well that UVA had to give him a special award for kicking. He'd never kicked before, but he kicked them all over. Yeah. Okay. Next we have Jason Cole. He's from Okmulgee. Jason is 8. Yeah. And he's one of our standouts. He just did a little bit of everything because his mom was she was the public health nurse in Okmulgee. She was there. He helped unload everything. He helped, and then he went out on the field and did his thing, and he got a Hustle Award too. And I see Gavin and Victor Pedraza. Yeah, Oscar. Yeah, Gavin is 6 years old, and his brother Victor is 9. And Gavin, he got hurt, and he was bleeding, and midway in the morning, and really bad. But you know, he came, and the nurse patched him up, and his brother Victor came, checked on him. He was okay, and he had a few tears, but he got back out there. Right about afternoon, he got hurt again. He came back, patched him up. He went back out there. He got hurt 3 times, but he got out there, and he's only 6. He won't be 7 until November. So Gavin and Victor, they just stood out. And finally, we have Abner Mentor. Yeah, Abner's 12, and he was at our first camp at Coweta, and he was also kind of like Cole. His mother was a volunteer, and she helped cook and whatever. He'd run off the field and help her, and he'd run back on the field. And I don't know if you guys, some of you saw the video, but he was out there right on time doing his thing. So we're very, very proud of all these young men. We had a couple of others. I don't know, did Noah Alexander, did he make it? Yeah, okay, I don't know, yeah. Noah? Okay. And Caden and Chase, they were from Eufaula. Noah has been at every camp that we've had in Eufaula. He's there early in the morning, like 6 o'clock, waiting on us. And he always gets some kind of award. And I don't know how far they had to come this morning, but did you say he was here? He's in the bathroom. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. And then we have Caden and Chase Baumgartner. They were there also. They've been at Eufaula every single time we've had the camp, and they're there early in the morning. Their dad is also a volunteer. He's on the school board at Eufaula, and he came up from time to time asking if everything was okay, and committed the school to however long we do this, whatever they can do. If anybody badmouths us, he said he's going to go beat them up. No. So I don't know. Abner, did you say you had something to say? You didn't? You didn't want to say anything? Yeah. So I'd like to also acknowledge that the parents, you know, they were there also, and we know that to get our kids out there, the parents have to get them there. And so I'm just real proud of the parents. One, Megan, works for us. She's a public health nurse, and she was out there, and that's how come Cole was taking groceries and whatever. Even our coaches, our cooks, we didn't have enough, so they cooked some of the hot dogs, so we were pleased. This is Noah Alexander. Yeah. And let's see, who's Randy? Are you here for you had to bring Abner? Where are you? And he brought his two little ones. Yeah, thank you so much. We have something for you, but we'll give it to you later. Noah's parents. I remember you bringing him early in the morning before you got to go to work. Yeah, and Oscar, I don't know how far you had to come, but we really appreciate that you brought him. And Eden's mom and her husband and all of the boys. I think they used the excuse to help their mom, and so Eden shined out there. But they were there all day, and they helped. They volunteered. And that's what we try to do with this camp, is to get everybody involved, because when our community is involved, they support their children, and the schools are more likely, the coaches are more likely to identify our children, and they're going to support them as well. So any child that goes to this camp or is involved in some kind of way, they participate, then we know that that child has somebody special in their life, and they're going to support them. They're more likely to graduate and go on to college, and we want our communities and our schools to support them as well. So my hat's off to you. I thank you so much for investing in our children. They're our future. Okay, so we're done.
Our next presentation will be Ms. Carly Hotvet, participants of the MCN Ag Youth Washington, D.C. leadership trip.
Good morning, members of the National Council, Executive Branch, and everybody in attendance. My name is Carly Hotvet. I'm the Director of Agriculture and Natural Resources here at the Muscogee Creek Nation. We got the fantastic opportunity to take a group of 24 Creek students to Washington, D.C. for an Ag Youth leadership trip this summer. My program coordinator, Trin Cassie, identified a BIA Natural Resources grant targeting youth programs. It is a very competitive grant. They only award 5 nationally on an annual basis. After we submitted our award, we were notified that we were ranked #1. So this is a highly competitive grant that we were ranked #1 for, and we were awarded to take a group of Creek youth. We've had 24 kids that were able to attend the program, and through the attendance, we were able to visit the National FFA Center in Indianapolis on the way to Washington, D.C. We toured the Supreme Court, we toured Congress, we toured the Library of Congress, and we went to quite a few other locations to provide some enrichment for our Native students, to let them know that there are opportunities available for them, and to let them know that their government is accessible to them beyond the Creek Nation at even a federal level. So we had a really great time. The group of students that we selected were incredibly competitive, and I'm very proud to have 2 before you today to talk to you about their experience. We were set to have 4, but between summer illnesses that are going around, we have these 2 great young gentlemen. Isaiah Ramirez was able to attend the trip. He's also a summer youth worker for my Ag and Natural Resource programs, and he's been great. And we also have Chase Quimby here from Olive, who is incredibly involved and is a rising star in the FFA. I'll turn that over to them, and please give them your attention. Thank you.
Hinch J. My name is Isaiah Ramirez, and I am from the Wing clan. My parents are Nathan and Amanda Wyatt, and my grandma is sitting over there, Ellen Lena. I live in Tulsa. I go to Victory High School. I'm going to be a senior this year, and I'm also taking concurrent courses in Oral Roberts University. So both my parents are in the medical field, and I hope to plan to be a medical field, I guess, follow in their footsteps one day. So I applied for the Washington, D.C. trip because I thought it was a great idea to expand interest in environmental health to be able to provide our nation with clean drinking water. So as you know, we took a charter bus to the trip. It was said to be 12 hours to stop at our first stop, but ended up taking about, I guess, 20 hours. So we had that. And it just so happened that one of my great uncles was one of the bus drivers. So that was good. We visited many sites, as Carly said, visited the mounds, the FFA, the Supreme Court, the Capitol. And it just makes me appreciate everything just to be able to be selected on this trip. I would say my most favorite about the trip was going to the Native American Museum, and it just brought great pride to me and just to be able to learn about my culture. And I know just our heritage is slowly dying out, but I'm trying to learn as much as I can just to be able to just tell all the kids and children just so we can preserve our heritage and culture. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity to be able to come and just talk about my trip and just speak to everyone. I just want to thank you, council members, and just letting us be able to have this opportunity. So thank you.
Good morning. My name is Chase Quimby, and I'm from Olive, Oklahoma. I'll be a senior this year. I'm president of the FFA chapter, and got this awesome opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. with the Muscogee Creek Nation and with Carly, and it was a lot of fun. Y'all already know we went to the Supreme Court, we went to Library of Congress. It was a great time, opened our eyes to a lot of the U.S. government, taught us a lot about the government, a lot of great time on the bus there and on the bus trip back, and just want to say thank y'all, and I hope we can go again.
Thank you so much. Our programs will continue to support Ag Youth at the Muscogee Creek Nation, so we appreciate the support that we receive from National Council and from the community as well. We'd love to hear any ideas about additional youth enrichment. We definitely want to get out to the community and continue the work that we've been doing, so thank you so much.
Next item on the agenda will be the quarterly report. Principal Chief James R. Floyd.
Good morning, everyone. As always, it's a pleasure to stand before you and give a report, and especially this morning for the third quarter fiscal year 2019. I'd like to have a few introductions first before I get started. I'm pleased to have our royalty here with us this morning, Junior Miss Muscogee Creek Nation, Jaden Randall. And our Miss Muscogee Creek Nation, Michaela Buckley. And I think that's all the royalty that we have in attendance this morning, so Mado for being here this morning. I'd like to begin by, well, overall, it's just, you were provided the quarterly report in hard copy earlier this week, and so it's a tough job to edit that down to get to the highlights because there's so many. So bear with me as we go through that, and I'll try to summarize that report for you. Pleased to say that the number of employees for the third quarter grew, and we had 2,511 during the third quarter. That included 509 of our summer youth, and we recognized them yesterday and kind of in a concluding event for them for the summer. So it's great to have them here this year. At the end of the third quarter, the permanent fund stood at $390,696. This is an increase of $6 million over the previous quarter. And for comparison, this is an increase of 11 million or 3.2% from where it stood last year at this time. The third-party gaming revenue was down this quarter. We did experience some rain and bad weather, so it affected gaming some. So the revenue was down by 5.4 million, and is largely attributed to the flooding at River Spirit Casino in May and June of this year. In the Department of Justice, they continue to be very busy with their workload, and they opened 175 criminal misdemeanor cases. They worked 27 uncontested probates, 2,819 estate plannings, and they worked 57 child support cases, and were able to bring in collections of $508,873 as a result of those efforts. And so I want to thank them for all their hard work. In the human management services, they did, as I mentioned, the total number of employees, but they processed 57 new hires. And for health, they processed 57 as well, and 22 transfers. And so they continue to grow in our employment. The General Services Administration, they don't get a lot of attention. People use them all the time, but nobody really knows what they do so much. But I wanted to talk about them a little bit because several things that they do that help support us that we may not see all the time, but is very significant. One is the inventory of tribal equipment. It is now, as we go to barcoding all of our equipment, they're about at 95% of complete in getting all of our equipment. We talked about this recently, and they said we'll never be at 100% because we keep getting new equipment and other equipment goes out. So 95% is probably about the maximum we will do. It's important to note that 3 years ago we had no inventory system that we could really tell what we had. And so the barcoding system has worked quite well. Since its inception, we've now accounted for $42,146,000 worth of equipment that's owned by the Muscogee Creek Nation. So I think that's important that we know our assets. We got those barcoded, we update those every year, and so we can now account for what we have and where it's located. Thank you. The implementation of the Fleet Management Department started about 3 years ago, and I think it's important to note that just during this last quarter, we had 2,228 vehicle reservations. And so the General Services Fleet Management Department maintains all the cars that we use, that the tribe owns, and those rented by GSA, the federal government. And so they have a centralized electronic reservation system. So if they need a car, just go on the computer and tell them, they'll have the car ready. So that continues to increase, and 2,228 in one quarter I think is pretty significant. The other thing about General Services Administration is that, as the council may be aware, several years ago when we went to the state purchase program, it saved us a lot of money, and over this past quarter we put out to bid 22 vehicles, and those total savings to the tribe was $190,000 with a purchase of those 22 vehicles. So a great job, guys. In the Department of Health, the third quarter goals that they had, I want to highlight a couple of them. One is to reduce the number of missed opportunities in all outpatient services by 50%. And what that really is those people who don't keep their appointments. And so we want to reduce those so that they maximize the time of the providers that we had. Their goal was 22.5%. Their accounting of that was 24.3%. So the reduction of those missed opportunities makes it easier for people to get appointments, and they are keeping the appointments. So it's quite good. And also the physical rehab center's improvements of cash collections were significant this quarter. They collected with the medical center $5,344,584. And what's significant about that is the total collections for the quarter were 18 million. And last year at this time, they had collected 13 million. So they are up from this point last year in total collections by 4,853,000. So that's all the facilities, and so a great job by everybody there. In our hospitals, the Creek Nation Community Hospital, they had 3,187 ER visits during the third quarter and 152 inpatient days. The Okmulgee Medical Center had 3,655 ER visits and 295 inpatient days. What's also significant is that as we began to move to outpatient surgeries, they had 109 outpatient surgeries during the third quarter. For community and human services, they expended $2,607,000 this past quarter, and they served 57,957 citizens. And so that number continues to climb, as that's just the number for the past quarter. They also assisted with repairs to community centers, and that included Muscogee and Duck Creek communities, where they did roof repairs and upgraded the septic systems at Dewar and Morris communities, and conducted electrical and circuit upgrades at the Holdenville community. And also, due to the storms that we had, the natural disasters that we had, Human Services assisted 126 individuals, and that totaled $43,488 in direct assistance to them. I want to thank them for their work. I'd like to take a minute to recognize Muscogee Creek Nation Youth Services. The Youth Council traveled with 20 members and 9 chaperones over Memorial Day holiday back to our homelands. And so they visited Moundville, Horseshoe Bend, and Okmulgee Mounds National Historical Park. And so they had a great trip. Also have something to give the speaker on behalf of the Muscogee Youth Council. Speaker, if you would come up, I'd like to give this to you. It's to the National Council in support of the Unity Conference each year that they attend. And what's noteworthy about this year, it was held in Tampa, Florida, so they couldn't all go. But we're pleased that the former Miss Muscogee Creek Nation Princess Brittany McCain was elected as co-president of the Executive Board or Executive Council of the Unity. And I think that's quite an accomplishment, because this group of several thousand represents youth from all over the United States. And so I'm very pleased. Nancy, great job with the youth. Thank you. The Department of Education and Training has been very busy this past quarter as well. About graduation time, they distributed, for the first time, they were able to distribute honor accords to graduates, and so they distributed 400 of them across the Creek Nation and to those and others nationwide. And so this is the first time they did that. I expect that number to grow next year as more people are aware of that. But we've got very positive responses from those students who were able to wear Muscogee Creek Nation cord colors for their graduation. The State Tribal Education Partnership Grant that the Creek Nation has held its annual Teacher Fellowship Project this summer, that culminated with a 2-day extensive training that they had that I was able to attend, and can report that we had some very involved teachers throughout the Creek Nation, and a very good program. We hope that we can continue that. We had 16 school teachers that participated and represented schools from Wetumpka, Welika, Eufaula, Dewar. I think that's it. And so I don't know if any teachers are here this morning, but I want to recognize you for your efforts of both the fellowship program and for the work that you do every day, because learning to include our culture in the classroom, I think, is very important. Also in higher education during the third quarter of this year, they assisted 1,133 students with grants and scholarships, and that totaled $1,257,000 for this quarter. They also hosted the second annual Honors Scholar Program during the festival, and again, we had, I think, 5 people that made presentations and showed that the projects they're working on, either in their master's, doctoral, or in their law programs that they're involved in. So if you haven't attended that, please do next year. It's very informative. They really look at issues that they believe is important to Muscogee Creek Nation, and so we're very pleased to host them. Also, the Native Edge program, which is elevating education throughout the Creek Nation, for actually throughout the state now. We continue to expand that, and it's become a model for the state. And the Native Edge program has been recognized by the United States Department of Education as an exemplary model for building tribal and state partnerships and elevating district growth and education. Oklahoma State Superintendent Joy Hoffmeister attended the conference that we held adjacent to the Intertribal Council and said that Muscogee Creek Nation has been a leader in investing in teacher professional development around working with children and who have experienced hardship, abuse, and neglect in their classrooms. And so this addresses that, recognizes that they've had trauma in their life, and designs programs to teach them to overcome that. So a great job by those who are involved in that program. And finally, in the reintegration program, they began their first welding class in May of this year, so they'll be having graduation, I think, fairly soon. And this is to train those in the reintegration program for a job skill, and from what I have heard, it's been well received. In the Department of Interior, I want to talk about what our cultural and historic and cultural preservation folks do. I think I report that each quarter, but the numbers just continue to rise. And during this past quarter, the staff of the cultural preservation reviewed 5,978 projects under what they call Section 106 programs. And what that includes is any project that would affect any of our lands and burial sites, historic sites, and those of cultural significance. And as I recall, just about a year ago, we were doing less than 2,000 a quarter, and so now that's tripled. I think that's a sign of the recognition of the tribe wanting to be involved in projects throughout the United States where our people had lived and where they're living right now. They also conducted two burials this past quarter, one in partnership with the Georgia State University, and the other was in Georgia, an individual site at the Brakebill Mound. And so those are usually done discreetly and privately, and so I want to thank them for participating in that as well. I'd like to talk about the council house as well, that as you may notice today, I think we've now got wireless and Wi-Fi throughout the building, so you should be able to, not during the meeting, but you can text now and communicate, so hopefully that's working well. But we had a total of 783 guests here at the council house during the third quarter. And they held events during the month of April, May, and June. In April, they had an Easter egg hunt here, a Mother's Day event in May, and a Father's Day event in June. So as they continue to grow here, the attendance is going up as well. So I want to thank them as well. The Realty Trust Service, as well as another department, has been very busy. They conducted 76 on-site property inspections. They negotiated right-of-ways, and it brought in $9,600 to homeowners. They also negotiated BIA-approved leases for $28,000 and brought in $107,000 in total income that goes to property owners of restricted lands. And the Realty Office has also been working on a project very much this last quarter on remedying the fencing project. And so this is a project where we go in and fence restricted properties and work with adjacent landowners. We've had experience of land that we own being unfenced where other people just use it and abuse it. So what this program does is go in and fence the property, reestablish relationships with the adjacent landowners where we can both work as good neighbors. And so it's been very successful, and so they will continue to do that. It's important to protect the citizens' restricted lands and also being good neighbors to those around them. In the Department of Commerce, the Secretary of Commerce attended the first meeting of the newly created Oklahoma Department of Commerce Tribal Economic Development Council. I think now they meet quarterly, and so we have a seat at the table at that group, and hopefully that will bring rewards to us, at least recognition that we're at the table when they talk about economic programs. The Planning and Grants Office processed 18 awards this past quarter for $7,544,000. This is a 42% increase in awards compared to this time last year, and we presently have 90 federal grants that they administer. I'm not sure how much that's grown, but it's been significant in the last couple of years. So thank you. Each one is working very hard on that. In tourism and recreation, as you know, we hosted the 45th annual Muscogee Creek Nation Festival in June. And although we don't have the total number of people who attended, what they did report was that the Facebook page audience grew by over 20% this year, with 1,400 new likes, bringing the page following to over 8,000 people. And in public relations, their Facebook page also continues to grow and is 10% over last quarter. And also the nation's website, they're very busy and is seen by people from all over the world, and had over 100,000 views this past quarter. In the Department of Housing, we had the groundbreaking this past quarter for the Elderly Village Project here in Okmulgee on Mission Road, and they're working with the New Fire Native Design company to prepare the plans and the designs and specifications. This will be housing for 72 individuals in cottage-style housing, and these single-family dwellings will really help bring a community type of atmosphere to to elderly housing. So we look forward to that project. We're in phase 1 of that now, and we hope to go into phase 2 very quickly. In the independent and statutory agencies, I just want to highlight a couple of those, and the remainder will be in your report. Light Horse Administration, I think Chief Hawkins is here this morning, but I think it's important to know the volume of what they do. In this last quarter, they had 1,817 calls for service. There were 130 arrests, 49 citations, and 398 incidents and 9 domestic violence reports that they worked. And so they've been very busy. I want to give a thanks to them because they're out there 24 hours a day and under some very stressful conditions. And so very thankful for what they do. Also, they had 37 criminal investigations during this past quarter. In the Tax Commission, the department is on track to have the highest revenue producing year since its inception. The Motor Vehicle Department is $20,747 ahead of where we were this time last year. As well, they processed more than 130 more requests for registration during the quarter as compared to the quarter last year at this time. And I'd like to close with just a couple things. One, I always want to talk about our veterans, and I think it's significant the number of veterans that we have that receive compensation for their service to the country. During the third quarter, we had 523 of our veterans receiving compensation from the Department of Veterans Affairs. And that's up from 521 from the previous quarter. All told, their compensation because of their injuries and disabilities during their service to date this year, the calendar year, is over $4 million. And so with my experience being in the VA, I had not seen a tribe that has as many veterans that have been worked to get their compensation that they're due and that they've earned. And so I think 523 is great that we recognize and assist our veterans as they have less service but still have disabilities and injuries from their service. So I want to reach out to them and tell them thanks, and thanks to our veterans as well. Thank you. The last two is I want to talk about citizenship. They've been very busy as well. And we've talked about the enhanced tribal cards that they have issued, and they started about a year ago. They've now issued 410 of those. And so they've hosted events. They were in California, New Mexico, and continue to stay very busy. And they've been, during the third quarter, they replaced 3,702 citizenship cards, 119 CDIB cards, and 689 citizenship cards, 707 being new cards. So the tribal enrollment at the end of the third quarter stood at 87,816 citizens. The election board's also been very busy, as you can imagine, and now it reports that the total number of registered voters at 17,030. And they've been working the election, and so they ask that you go to their website and to receive information regarding the election and the dates and the forums. And also, I just want to conclude by saying I want to thank all the staff for your hard work and your dedication. You do a great job, and the results of the third quarter report shows that. So, Mado, to all of you, Speaker, thank you for the time this morning.
Next on the agenda will be approval of minutes. Extraordinary session, June 10th, 2019. Planning session, June 25th, 2019. Pre-agenda regular session, June 29th, 2019. Representative Yohola Osborne made a motion to approve the minutes with any changes. Seconded by Representative Rufus Scott. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote, please. 15 in favor, 0 against. That motion is adopted. Next item on the agenda, the order of business. NCR 19-002, a resolution of the Muscogee Creek Nation confirming Ruth Bible to serve on the Muscogee Media Editorial Board. Sponsors Lucian Tiger III. Motion to adopt by Representative Huft, seconded by Representative Jones. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote, please. 14 in favor, 0 against, 1 to abstain. That motion is adopted. Ms. Bible, would you please stand and be recognized? TR 19-087, a tribal resolution of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing Principal Chief to execute a certain DNV GL Healthcare USA Inc. short form agreement, training services agreement on behalf of the Muscogee Creek Nation Department of Health. Sponsors James Jennings. Motion to adopt by Representative Jennings, seconded by Representative Jones. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion is adopted. TR 19-088, a tribal resolution of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing Principal Chief to submit a 2019 competitive Indian housing block grant application to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Sponsor Thomasine Yohola Osborne. Motion to adopt Representative Yohola Osborne, seconded by Representative Rufus Scott. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion is adopted. TR 19-089, a tribal resolution of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing Principal Chief to apply for a 2019 Tribal Heritage Grant through the United States Department of the Interior. Sponsors Patrick Freeman Jr. Representative Freeman made a motion to adopt, seconded by Representative Randolph. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion is adopted. TR 19-091, a tribal resolution of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing Principal Chief to execute an independent services contract with the Native American Rights Fund. Sponsors James Jennings. Motion to adopt by Representative Jennings, seconded by Representative Dale Beaver. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none, voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion is adopted. NCA 19-093, a law of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of grant funds awarded from the First Nations Development Institute for the benefit of the Muscogee Nation Youth Services 2019 Native Youth and Cultural Funding NYCF Grant Award. Sponsor James Jennings. Motion to adopt by Representative Jennings, seconded by Representative Dale Beaver. Discussion. Discussion. Roll call vote, please. 15 in favor, 0 against. That motion is adopted. NCA 19-094, a law of the Muscogee Creek Nation appropriating funds to the Muscogee Creek Nation Department of Education and Training to facilitate a pilot summer STEM camp for students in partner school districts. Sponsors James Jennings. Motion to adopt by Representative Jennings, seconded by Representative Randall Hicks. Discussion. Discussion. Roll call vote, please. 15 in favor, 0 against. That motion is adopted. NCA 19-095, a law of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing a budget modification in excess of 10% for the Muscogee Creek Nation Family Violence Prevention Program. Sponsors Johnny Green. Motion to adopt by Representative Green, seconded by Representative Randolph. Discussion. Discussion. Roll call vote, please. 15 in favor, 0 against. That motion is adopted. NCA 19-097, a law of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of grant funds awarded from the National Association. NCA 19-097, a law of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of grant funds awarded from the National Association of Conservation Districts, NACD, for the benefit of the Muscogee Creek Nation Conservation District's 2019 NACD Technical Assistance Program. Sponsors Patrick Freeman, Jr.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Representative Freeman, seconded by Representative Hill. Discussion. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote, please. 15 in favor, 0 against. That motion is adopted. NCA 19-098, a law of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing appropriation of funds for the elderly housing construction project. Sponsor Thomasine Yehola Osborne. Motion to adopt by Representative Yehola Osborne, seconded by Representative Jennings. Discussion. Discussion. Roll call vote, please. 15 in favor, 0 against. That motion is adopted. NCA 19-099, a law of the Muscogee Creek Nation amending MCN-CA Title 37, Chapter 4, entitled Conflict of Interest. Sponsors Robert Huft. Motion to adopt by Representative Huft, seconded by Representative Hill. Discussion. Discussion. Roll call vote, please. 15 in favor, 0 against. That motion is adopted. NCA 19-100, a law of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing a supplemental appropriation for the Muscogee Creek Nation Office of the Attorney General's fiscal year 2019 budget. Sponsors Adam Jones III. Motion to adopt by Representative Jones, seconded by Representative Hicks. Discussion. Discussion. Roll call vote, please. 13 in favor, 2 against. That motion is adopted. NCA 19-101, a law of the Muscogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of grant funds awarded from the Institute of Museum and Library Services for the benefit of 2019 Native American, Native Hawaiian Museum Services Program. Sponsors James Jennings. Motion to adopt by Representative Jennings, seconded by Representative Dale Beaver. Discussion. Discussion. Roll call vote, please. 15 in favor, 0 against. That motion is adopted. Next item on the agenda, be other business. We have any other business? Hearing none, next item on the agenda, be announcements. We have any announcements from council? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn. Representative Travis Scott made a motion to adjourn, seconded by Representative Randolph. All in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. I'd like to ask Representative Travis Scott to please give the benediction.